Are you living your life in black and white? Or are you playing full out in living color? If you ask me, I think courage has a lot to do with it. Courage has an awful lot to do with it. Is there anyone out there who's got a dream squasher in their life? Someone who told you that thing you always wanted to do wasn't something that you got to do? Can I see a show of hands? Dream squashers? There are dream squashers all around. And if we listen to the dream squashers, we might never be that thing we always wanted to be. Let's take John Lennon, for example. Here's a gentleman who was really good at singing and songwriting and playing the guitar, but he had an Aunt Mimi. And Aunt Mimi said, I don't know, I don't think you ought to do that. But he wanted to do it enough that he kept on doing it, and just imagine what the world would have been like without John Lennon. Ray Bolger was cast originally in The Wizard of Oz as the Tin Man. Did you know that? He was, and us common ordinary yokels that wanted to get into the movies would have been totally happy if we had been cast into that show. But as it turned out, Ray Bolger was a very talented dancer and singer. And he knew that if he got that role, it would change the game and the trajectory of his life forever. And so what did he do? He fought for the opportunity to meet with the casting director to make his case. And he got the role. And life as we know it is made better because he fought for that dream that he had. As for me, I wanted to get worldwide recognition as a business bio expert. And I have a list as long as my arm of mentors, coaches, and others who told me that I shouldn't do it, I couldn't do it, or worse. Don't let the dream squashers take your dream before you've had the opportunity to give it wings to fly, especially if your heart and your head and your gut, you know that that's the role that you're supposed to play. So what is the downside if we listen to the naysayers? It could very well be that we will be stuck in arid, dry Kansas for the rest of our lives, doing something that we hate. We could be stuck in a soul-sucking job when there's something else we'd rather do. It could be that we never give ourselves permission to charge our full value or ask for what it is that we want, so we're undervalued and undercompensated. You could have some wonderful gift that never gets fulfilled and have the world never see it, and your legacy will not be alive. These are serious consequences, as opposed to having the opportunity to go to Munchkin Land or Oz, which would be so much better. I know a little bit about being discounted and being told I wasn't important. When I was a little girl, I grew up in a very, normal family, but maybe not so. My dad was an actor in Hollywood. My sister had a flair for the dramatic, and my mom was a child of the Depression. And I remember very early on saying to my mom something that I wanted to be when I grew up. And because scarcity was such an issue, she said to me, Nancy, learn how to type, then you'll always be able to have a job. And I remember thinking at 9 years old, didn't she have higher expectations of what I could accomplish? And then the bigger question was, didn't I have higher expectations for what I could accomplish, regardless of what she had to say? And I was asking these questions very early on. So just because you grow up in a household with a TV star in the household doesn't mean that you have all the money in the world. The truth of it was we knew a lot about scarcity because it's a lot different being an actor in Hollywood than it is being a blockbuster star that can call the shots. The only shot I could think about was watching television and taking action on what I saw because I was fascinated with advertising. Do you remember that commercial, How Many Licks Does It Take to Get to the Center of a Tootsie Pop? Me too. One day on a Saturday, I actually figured it out. I figured out how many licks it takes, and I wrote a letter to the president of the Tootsie Pop Corporation. I took such satisfaction putting words on paper and sending a letter to someone of importance to see what might happen. And I just had this feeling of expectation. And a few weeks later, I was rewarded because I got this gorgeous gilded certificate in the mail. And it was from the president of the Tootsie Pop Corporation. And it said, very few people on earth know how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop, but this certificate belongs to one of the few who do. Oh my God, in my heart, in my head, in my gut, I felt important for the first time, 9 years old. I thought, if I could use words on paper to make a difference and to be made to feel important, maybe I was supposed to use words on paper to make other people feel important. And I decided that's what I wanted to do. And that went pretty well because I started a PR firm and it did really, really well for a while. And then there was the Great Recession. Were you there? I woke up this morning and I asked my husband, why did they call it the Great Recession? You know, great, like great. Well, that's like, Tony the Tiger, great cereal. Great, awesome. But this wasn't great. It wasn't great for me. Was it great for you? It was awful. Here I have this PR firm and I'm using words like a wizard to describe the who, what, where, when, why, and how around what people wanted to do to get known. And then in the span of a weekend, it seemed like the whole business fell apart because people were holding on for dear life just to save themselves. So without any rich relatives, without any deep pockets, I was really stuck. So I took a dare from a friend and I wrote a book. And it was designed to solve an urgent problem in the marketplace. There were lots of people that had been shown the door to leave corporate America and start their own jobs. And they had to go get clients fast. And they needed to be able to describe at first glance what they did so people would want to buy it. So I wrote this book on a dare, and I think at the time I had 1,085 names on my newsletter list. I didn't know anything about online marketing. I just basically said, are you struggling in the recession like I am? Do you have a need to attract clients so you can get on with your life? I've got this book, and if you want to buy it, go get it. And I went and walked the dog. That was it. And when I came back, it was like, you have an order, you have an order, you have an order. And my husband was, working across the hall, and I walked over there, and I said, you got to see this. Look at this. People are buying this. He says, maybe you're onto something. It was awesome. But the big idea here is that book saved my bacon at a time when I really needed to bring it home. And I've since gone on to build all kinds of things around my business to help people get known and get paid. But what's important about this is that it used to be that I had a certain skill set that I could use. And I used it well, and then it evaporated. I was a master at one thing, and the next day I had to be a novice and still have the pressure to bring home the bacon. And I was not in Kansas anymore. I had so much to learn, and learn I did. And so I want to share with you some of the things that I've learned along the journey that can hopefully help you advance your process. And so I'm just checking my notes here because I get a little nervous, just like the cowardly lion. Okay. So what are the 3 biggest roadblocks to getting on with it? In my case, maybe you've experienced this too. There are naysayers, there's the know-how, and then there's the mindset. You have to silence the naysayers and want the result enough to keep on fighting. Because what other choice do you have? You must not surrender Dorothy. Along the yellow brick road to Oz, wherever that is for you, there are going to be distractions. There will be the equivalent of sleep-inducing poppies. There will be wicked witches. There will be fireballs to stop you in your tracks. There will be flying monkeys. It is fall down 7, get up 8. And even when you feel like you can't do it, or the failure you just had is one that you don't think you can recover from, you had the ugly cry and you just can't get up, it's fall down 7, get up 8, and keep on going. Because what other choice do you have? Dorothy said, but we've come such a long way already. And the truth is, we have so much further to go. Because one of the things we forget to do is realize how far we've come as we anticipate that the horizon is still moving ahead of us, because we're evolving every step we take, and our desires are changing as we do. What I've noticed as I've had to acquire all these new skills and abilities and talents that I never even thought I would need to know is that I've joined quite a few training programs and mentorship programs and masterminds. And at significant investment, I might add. And what I notice is that of the hundreds of people who start these programs, far fewer finish. And of the many, many people that start with high expectations, very few succeed. I think the Department of Labor says that only 6% of independent business owners ever get to 6 figures. So for me, starting, staying with it, and finishing has been the greatest reward of all, because I kept my eye on the prize. I set the intention that I wanted to be this expert, and I got known to be that expert. I'm a finisher. I'm a strong starter and a strong finisher, and that's really key. That is the greatest reward, because if you can't stay with the journey, you might as well go get a job. And that's okay, but that wasn't for me. So the next thing you need to do is acquire the know-how. And there is so much to learn. The bigger the mission, the more you have to find the courage to learn how to do things that maybe you have no idea how you're going to do it. Dorothy, Scarecrow, Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion had to go get the witch's broom and bring it back to Oz in order for him to solve their problems. They knew what they wanted, and the how appeared. I knew that I wanted to make a go of it as a serious internet entrepreneur. That was what my what was. How I was going to do it, I had no idea, but I was a really good student. I was committed to making a go of it. So where can you go to look for the answers? Well, as Dorothy was along the yellow brick road, she came to the sign and there was a Scarecrow. And she says, "How do I get to Oz?" And he says, "Well, some people go this way, and some people go this way, and some people go both ways. But the key is you have to make a decision. So make decisions we do. And so what do? We go to Google. Google is a fabulous resource. We buy books. We do training programs. We join masterminds. We do mentorship. We do all of these things. Who are you going to call to find the answers? Well, you can ask the local munchkins for recommendations. They'll help you out. Ask people who've already succeeded who they worked with and how they got help so that you can get help too. I think that Dorothy, the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion, and the Scarecrow made a pretty fine team because they joined together with different strengths and they were able to get to the promised land a lot faster and with a lot more fun and joy and jubilation and protection against the elements than if they had ever gone alone. So who's on your team? And who can you add to your team to help advance your journey? I think that for any business to succeed, we have to know who our ideal client is. We have to know what our unique brand of brilliance might be. We have to build a list of fans and followers. We have to be creative in creating joint venture partnerships. There's so many things we have to learn and do. And a lot of this is pure mechanics and just learning the basic foundational things. And it all has to, the only way out is through, baby. The only way out is through. So I want you to think about what top 3 things you need to learn in terms of know-how so that you can actually cross them off the list and have the accomplishment and the victory of having done it and gotten closer to your goal, which is your place, whatever Oz means to you. I think the most important and the most difficult part of the journey for me has been this idea of ditching self-limiting beliefs. Oh my gosh, I remember working with a coach. And all I really wanted to learn was how to use the dashboard on instant teleseminar. And, record, report, results. How do I do this? How do I do that? And every time I'd talk to him, he'd say, "Nancy, I need you to work on your inner game. There's so much more that you could be and do if you could just be more the message instead of focusing on the mechanics." But that felt really, really personal to me. I didn't hire a coach to help me with my inner game. I hired a coach to help me get to 6 figures fast. I figured I'd handle that other stuff like at the therapy office or something. But he would not let me off the hook. And it seemed like every call that I had, I was bursting into tears. And I guess the reason I tell you this story is that what he was trying to tell me, but that I wasn't listening very well, was that if I could be the message, live the message, show up more truly, it didn't matter if I messed up on the instant teleseminar. The right people would still find my message worthwhile, and I would grow my business a whole lot faster. I wish if I could go back to the beginning, if I could work on this piece first, I would do that first, because that would have changed my game even more dramatically right out of the gate. I think in terms of self-limiting beliefs, the things we worry about, how much credentials is enough? Am I qualified? Can I charge that? Can I give myself permission to ask for that or to be that? What if I make a big mistake and have an epic failure and everybody's looking at me funny? I remember the very first time I got invited to give a talk. My coach at the time said, Nancy, if you don't speak in front of live audiences, one arm of your success will be tied behind your back. And I wasn't happy with those odds. So I went to a talk and I had hold on to the podium for dear life, pray for the presentation to be over, and use PowerPoint like a crutch disease. And what made it even worse is someone wrote in the evaluation that she didn't pay $45 to hear a speaker talk like that. Public, epic humiliation. Fall down 7, get up 8, and here I am speaking with you right now. So I think that's what's really important. And look at this, I'm just doing the best I can. It's okay. I'm totally the message. It doesn't matter that it isn't perfect. Because the thing of it is, there's the bluebirds. And why did they get over to the rainbow? Because they thought that they could. So I want to tell you this story about penguins. Penguins are birds too. And they have wings. And theoretically, they should be able to fly. So according to a gentleman named, I want to give him credit, David Kroger, Dr. David Kroger. He wrote a book called The Secret Language of Money. And he tells this story about how these penguins went to a personal development seminar because they wanted to learn how to fly. And he said, I'm going to teach you how to fly, the mechanics of flying. I'm going to teach you the mindset around flying, and I'm going to teach you to have the right attitude around flying so that we can actually practice flying and make it happen right here in the room. Who's with me? And all the penguins said yes. So he went through the instruction and he said, okay, everybody, flap your arms, flap your arms. And they did. And the first penguin took off. And then the second one took off. And pretty soon, everyone was flying around the conference room. My slides are stopping. There it is, flying penguins everywhere. There was joy, there was jubilation. It was a sight to behold. And they all came down as they catch their breath, and they gave the instructor a standing ovation that lasted for a full 5 minutes. And then they walked home. They walked home. And the reason I tell you this story is if you learn something new and you acquire the mindset around it and you practice the skill but you don't actually do anything, nothing happens. Either you think you can or you think you can't. Either way, you're right, so said Henry Ford. So it's all about courage. And so if we want to ignite the courage, there's this quick steps I want you to take to get there. I would like you to identify big intention for big impact. I would like you to create a game plan. I want you to name your desired results in specific, terrific detail. I want you to initiate inspired and imperfect action to make the dream real. I want you to take tenacious steps down the road to make it happen. And I want you to express the message in action, word, and deed so that you can actually make it happen. And I want you to go right back to the beginning at regularly scheduled intervals so that you can evaluate your successes and assess where you're going to go. I want you to want your outcome enough to fight for it and make it real. Because there's a whole lot more power under the tent than you ever thought possible if you could just tap into your brilliance, use the skills that you have, and make use of them for good and profit. I want you to set your course, make your plans, and take flight, doing that thing you always thought you could do. Because the alternative is perhaps living in black and white or living in full color. I know that it's possible to go from Kansas to Oz because I've done all of this to achieve it myself. And I know that if you set that intention for yourself, you can do it too. And I think the most important thing I want you to know is that you've had the power all along. Don't you dare let any dream squasher take that away from you. I'm Nancy Juetten. Thank you very much.